Okay, so today I'm going to talk about Freud's theory of personality, his concept of the human mind. He believed that the human mind or personality had three components, the id, the ego, and the superego, and they all interact with one another. Interact is a very diplomatic way of stating it. There's a lot of conflict between these three structures. So to begin with, he felt like the first and probably the most powerful structure was what he referred to as the id, what he called the id. And the id part of personality is that biological, innate part of us that operates entirely on the pleasure principle. Its motto is, if it feels good, do it. Avoid pain at any cost. Anything that feels good, do it. Do a lot of it. Moderation is not anything the id wants to have anything to do with. So the id really wants whatever feels good, and that means anything that's pleasurable and avoid anything that's pain. And pain meaning hard work, delaying gratification. All those things are considered pain, and the id really doesn't want to have anything to do with that. Then the complete opposite structure of that is what he called the superego. The id, he believed, is that innate part of you that we're biologically born with. It's nature's. It's in our blueprint. It's in our DNA. So the superego, on the other hand, he believed is that part of us that is developed through society, generally through parenting, through whatever moral figures we might have in our lives. And the superego is that part of us that is the voice of moral authority. Your mother, or your parents, a religious figure, whoever tells you, that one must behave with a strong moral code, ethically, and not doing so, engaging in behaviors that are immoral or bad, and should be sort of steered away from. So you can see that those two, the id and the superego, really are. They're not just kind of having different goals. They have in some ways very incompatible goals. So the id wants whatever feels good, do it right now, and do it as much as possible without any limitations of conscience, socially acceptable behavior, consequences, consideration for others. None of that is important. All that's important for the id is what I want it now, and I'm going to get it by any means necessary, and I don't care what I do, the process, who I hurt, what criminal activities I may engage in, it's irrelevant. I just want what I want, and I want it now. It's really very much like a spoiled child. The superego, on the other hand, is the exact opposite, and it really believes it has a very strong moral code. That voice, that tisk, you mustn't do that, you shouldn't do that, so a good person does this, sort of duty, obligation, moral code. And they're really at odds with one another. So it is always, the superego is like the parent constantly scolding the child and making sure, a very strict parent, scolding the child, telling the child they can't do that, they can't have that, they must resist that, etc. The third part of the personality, or the structure of personality as Freud saw it, was what he referred to as the ego. The ego can be thought of as the middleman between the id and the superego. The middleman meaning that it's kind of the diplomat, the negotiator, the one that tries to get to some sort of middle ground between the two. The ego operates, as I said, the id operates on the pleasure principle, so if it feels good, do it. The ego operates on the reality principle. It tries to fulfill the needs of both the id and the superego in a way that is socially acceptable, in a way that maybe they can compromise, and in the end they can both get parts of their needs met enough so that they're satiated. Okay? So, for instance, the id, having a job is hard work. It's pain. The id would not want a job. The id would want to actually go, the id would want to go, if it's hungry, the id would want to go into a store and whatever it wants to eat, it would just take it, it would eat it right there, it would steal it, it would do anything, whatever it wants, it takes, end of story. The superego, on the other hand, of course, would have none of that, and the superego also believes in moderation. The id is really about immoderation. It doesn't want to do anything in moderation. So the id, if it got to be, went into a grocery store, it could take whatever it wanted. It would not take the fruits and vegetables generally. Take, and lots of things that are probably unhealthy for you in extreme amounts. Superego, on the other hand, would probably say you should only have broccoli, cauliflower, and apples, etc. You should stay away from all those things. So the ego comes in and tries to strike a deal between the two. So, okay, Mr. Id, you can't steal. You can't walk into the store and just take whatever you want. That's not the kind of society we live in. You can't do that. So you're probably going to have to get a job so that you can work and you can have money, and then you can fulfill some of your needs in terms of whatever it is that brings you pleasure that you want to pursue. And Mr. Superego, maybe you're being a little excessive. Maybe he could have a bag of chips and a chocolate bar, maybe an apple as well, and some broccoli as well, but not only that. Maybe we could have, one chocolate bar and then what's healthy, etc. So the ego tries operating within the understanding and constraints of reality. Okay, so understanding that giving the id nothing it wants is not going to work. Giving the superego nothing it wants is not going to work. It's going to cause internal conflict and problems in behavior, different types of problems. So the ego comes in and really tries to diplomatically strike a deal between the superego and the id, so that they both feel temporarily satiated. They've sort of gotten their needs met, not wholly, not entirely, but enough that they don't feel sort of like they have no voice or no power, and they don't sort of become obsessed with trying to get what it is they want. And that's the way our personality works. So it is constant. Really, it is, Freud would have said, it's like domestic warfare. There's sort of a conflict in the brain between what the id wants, because the id just wants what feels good. Its motto is, if it feels good, do it. It's like the little devil on your shoulder and the angel on your shoulder. So the id is the little devil going, just do it, just do it, just do it. Whatever feels good, just do it. And the little angel is saying, now, be good, do the right thing, always do the right thing, etc. And then in the middle is the ego, and the ego tries to balance those two out. Freud believed that many problems, psychological problems and ailments stemmed from a lack of balance. So when the ego does not end up doing its job properly, and it can go in either direction. So for instance, if the superego gets too much power and is too strong, so the id's needs are never being met, so the superego, so very strict family, very strict country, whatever the case is, where things are forbidden and everything is should, and pleasure is looked upon as negatively. People should, suffering is something that's valued. So when the id is constantly not having any of its needs met, and the superego is too powerful, that's going to cause certain types of psychological problems. And obviously one can imagine how the reverse, when the id's needs are constantly being met and the superego is being ignored, doesn't have its needs met, that too is going to cause problems, socially unacceptable problems, things like criminals or drug addicts, whatever the case is, where there's excess, there's no stopping, just operating under it, if it feels good, do it motto. And that's what he believed. That's how Freud believed personality, life, that's what he believed the human condition was. And he really believed that there is a constant internal struggle to sort of appease both sides. And they have, the problem, as I said, is it's a constant struggle, because the goals of the id and the goals of the superego are incompatible. They're not they can just go on their merry way and you do what you want and I'll do what I want, and live and let live. It doesn't work that way, because the two really are at odds with one another. So from Freud's perspective, a strong ego, something that is capable of interacting with reality and fulfilling the goals of both structures, the id and the superego, within the constraints of reality, that satisfies enough, not wholly, not fully, satisfies the needs of both structures enough, will make for sort of a healthy, adaptive, happy person. Happy as far as Freud thought one could be happy.